Good morning, everybody. John Sfielka here for GAI Insights, bringing the Gen AI news, rating it essential, important, or optional, putting thoughts in your head and time in your day. Today, we got a pretty full house. We have Paul, Amanda, Adam, Ankash, and very happy to have our guest rater, Lucinda Lindy. Welcome, Lucinda. All right. Ankash, start us off, if you would.
Thanks, Sean. So the first one that we have for today talks about Meta's AI abundance.
Yeah, Adam, where'd you land on this one from our friends at Strategery and a nice long analysis of how smart you've been?
It's a long article, but I can just hear Tim, saying, don't be afraid of making our audience read. So I considered this important when I finally made the time on a second effort to read it entirely. And it makes a really interesting case. And I think it's worthwhile to understand about how Meta has made this shift in what they call ATT, which is app tracking transparency. And so it's how much as they pay people, as they help people find and market and do commerce on their platform, how much money are they making? How much are they paying people? And they're actually finding that as if they've shifted from digital advertising and these probabilistic models with LLMs from the algorithms and the deterministic ones they were using previously, there's less transparency, but it's actually to everyone's benefit. And so it's a really interesting conundrum. Yet at the same time, it paints out sort of how they're going to extend short, medium, and long term in terms of revenue, like looking all out into the XR, mixed reality future, and how they're going to pave the way to that through starting with just sort of providing content on this massive platform that they have. So yes. It's definitely a very interesting read. I wouldn't say it's essential though, especially given the length. So important.
Yeah, it's interesting. I personally, Meta is my largest public company holding, and I think that for me, there's three reasons. First of all, they have the most social networks are the most stable form of network, in terms of ability to scale and stickiness. The other thing is that if you think about story and conversation as the core operating system of society, Meta has the most story and conversation of any company, with the possible exception of some of the Chinese ones. And generative AI is right in the middle of that. So, and then the nonlinear advertising, as we've talked about before, Google, Meta, and so forth. There's $630 billion there and more to come. And I think they can steal from Google at the very least. So, yeah, I was going to give it importance as well. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, I think it's important, just the fact to see other big players in the market besides like OpenAI that are doing interesting things and with Gen AI. I mean, literally, that's it for me. So I think anytime we have somebody that has a pretty good solution and they're utilizing this in the background, that we should pay attention. And again, to Adam's point, it is long. So maybe if they don't want to dig into every single, granular detail, but I think it's just important to know what Apple's doing in the space.
We could always feed it to a robot and have it summarized. Don't forget. Okay, Lucinda,
Yeah, a couple of things. Number one, just this article kind of points out how while Google may be susceptible to, what we're going to talk about later, which is the search GPT, this really shows how Meta is actually not going to be involved in the SEO bloodbath because they're not SEO. And Ankash, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down to a couple of the smile curves, that'd be great. That really kind of showed me just how different Facebook is, and the fact that they're making Llama 3 and 3.5, etc., free for everybody, and then learning so much about the ecosystem that's being built around it. Their AI strategy is really brilliant. And yeah, so yeah, keep
going down.
To me, I guess it underscores why Meta is one of the largest, is John's largest holding. But yeah, so here's one where we talk about, so the axes are, the lower axis is kind of weird, private, public, and personalized. here, scroll down to the next one, please. This kind of shows where social networking is for these. Could you scroll down to the next one? Yeah, so this one shows really, that how publishers are going to be, or have kind of a lower value add. People who are writing have a higher value add, and then Google and Facebook and Twitter, they help you kind of navigate all the storm of information, et cetera. But I think, but Facebook has done a really good job of leveraging their AI strategy into their operations as well.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna give this baby an important. Paul, you go with that?
Yeah, no, just like two other things. I mean, this is still a company that's grown at 15, 20, 30% a quarter on a $40 billion base. This is a founder CEO who's spent $50 billion on a metaverse that was a joke and continues to transform. And to say these guys are slow followers is absolutely incorrect. And I think it shows leadership on their side that you're not seeing from Google at all. So decisive leadership here. 3 is a material. It's got low share right now, but it is absolutely pushing on device, on phone, on enterprise. IBM's pushing it, and NVIDIA's pushing it. So Meta is a player in the enterprise space through their partners.
All right, important it is. Michael, you agree? Mike Novak, thank you. Next on Kaj, introducing ChatGPT search.
So finally, ChatGPT search is available to Premium Plus and Enterprise users.
Yes.
So what do we see? What do we think here, Lucinda? Go for it.
It's got to be essential. I mean, this is like, if anything's essential, this is essential for so many reasons. Number one, this kind of locks in OpenAI as really doing the answer as opposed to the 10 blue links. So it gives you something that's very personalized to what your question is and summarizes it. It gives it to you, real time. You can be able to search the web, et cetera. It's also, as Paul, Rosemary, and Alden all mentioned in their LinkedIn posts, like just how streamlined this is, the interface. It's very easy to use, easy to read, et cetera. Of course, because it's an LLM, it still has accuracy concerns. And then also, there's going to be, this also has a big impact on the, of course, on the SEO bloodbath, right? So basically, Google's business model is under threat here. And actually maybe Perplexity as well, because really they've taken a lot of the citation-based, answers and linking to that, that Perplexity is doing. So OpenAI has basically taken on both of these players. And that the business model is definitely going to have to evolve, because if they're operating it for free and no ads yet, then where is this going to go? So just a few thoughts on that to kick off the topic.
Yeah, well, Vivek is asking, it's going to be interesting to see how they choose to monetize it, and I think that's going to be very interesting. It's funny you say, Lucinda, about how it's a clean interface. I remember hearing from one of the early Google folks talking about when they first put Google up, and all it had was the box and the name. And folks were used to Yahoo at the time, which had lots of columns in it, that a number of people were just sitting there waiting. And finally, the person running the focus group came in and said, "What are you waiting for?" They said, "We're waiting for the rest of it to load." And there's nothing but the box. Anyway, it kind of feels like that here. All right, what do others think?
I'm at least important as well. Just again, big player. They're out here now. They're finally in search. I started to play around with it, so I don't know. I can't just say I love it. It's the best thing since sliced bread right now, because I just started playing around with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's just important to note that they're out here in the game again.
All right, Adam, I think you're on the fence in the pregame.
Yeah, I think this is something our leaders absolutely don't want to be caught unaware about, right? Which is probably going to tip it over into the essential for me. I think it more what I'm realizing is the significance of how OpenAI is making this push into our lives and are becoming an essential part of them. They have a Chrome plugin for this. If it's not quite obvious, but if you're in your browser logged in as a Plus subscriber and you go to your profile, there's something that says get the Chrome plugin. So now when I go to my nav bar at the top where I used to Google search, it actually launches ChatGPT in the browser for me and kicks off a search session like a Perplexity chat. And I found many times in the last month even, I'd go up into that nav bar and start to want to type like I'm searching and realize that that's a Google search, and I'd go launch ChatGPT. So it's just one more layer of friction that's been removed from my day-to-day life. The other thing, the advanced voice mode is now available on the desktop as well. And so to be here and, you know, like I'm going to show next week, you know, in the demo on the Learning Lab, to be able to sit here, and of course I can run it on my phone, but to be able to just sit at my desk and have a conversation with the LLM that's running in the background with my voice without having to break out of the other activity I'm working on. Like I just experienced this way that OpenAI is really moving deeper into our day-to-day lives. So it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I'm all in for Essential. Paul, where are you on this thing?
Yeah, Essential for all the reasons we said. I've been using I have my default search engine, my Chrome. So this has been very interesting. Images, it's not very good, but I tested a lot of things, pretty good on text. I think for the enterprise, a few other things, John, I think this is going to continue to drive token consumption up. So if you have, 1,000 users or 10,000 employees, this is yet another reason that token consumption is going to go to trillions per year. I think second is, you're an advertiser, you have got to get your act together thinking about the bloodbath, Lucinda. This is yet again, I mean, they've got 200 million. They're going to do 4 billion this year, 6 to 8 billion next year. This is by far the leading user out there. All the early adopters use this. And in terms of moving the answer economy, it's happening. It's happening faster than people are thought. And then what's going to happen, Adam, I mean, Anthropic is a major competitor, so they're going to start keeping up here. So we've got the vectors of competition even moving more into traditional space. So definitely essential.
Yeah, I think people also just need to remember the scale of the river of cash that goes through, you know, nonlinear advertising. I mean, $600 billion and more. And then, you know, and I think it's going to be really interesting because I think it opens up the ability for new players to get between the customer and the provider of things. I mean, I'd be very curious to see what the telcos do here.
John, will you share what nonlinear advertising is for our audience?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Basically, on-demand advertising as opposed to linear advertising being what you get on, you know, television or radio, or I think they also put print in there. So, you know, Super Bowl ad would be linear advertising.
Yeah. So non-traditional equals nonlinear, correct?
Yeah, on demand. I mean, it's not. It's context dependent. Usually comes to you through an algorithm. And then the other articles, the strategy article, also notes that, you know, the mix between content and ad, you know, I mean, the early days of television, right, we had the Coke Hour, we had all that stuff, and there was, you know, it was product placement and a real mix between, you know, programming and, you know, well, soap operas, right? I mean, what are soap operas? They're selling soap, right? And this is going to be much more intimate in terms of, you know, the integration. I mean, think about what product placement means when you can generate stories and capabilities. I mean, what made Donald Trump rich, right? The Apprentice, that was a huge product placement company. That's it. And,
and last quick note on that, John. I mean, people probably know we do a custom email for Crocs, which is a B2C company, and it's really shown the 15 to 20% many case studies of more engagement on video ads and story ads. So the AI engagement within your nonlinear advertising is going to go up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and Kevin asked, you know, is this going to be more compute intensive? I bet it will be, Kevin, in the near term. I'm optimistic that we're going to have massive algorithmic innovation as well as decentralization with small models, and so I think it's going to be a combination of in the near term stuff that's really obvious is that we're going to have way more stuff on devices and smaller models, and it's not obvious yet, but I'm optimistic that we'll have algorithmic innovation. Because if you think about the transformer, the whole reason we have generative AI is just a clever algorithm that that people are willing to throw, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of compute power at, which is pretty cool and profound. Anyway, all right. Next, Essential here, Ankash. Next, please.
Okay, next one again from OpenAI. They have introduced a benchmark called SimpleQA.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of interesting. Their own models don't do very well against this thing, which is basically looking at the creation of a benchmark that says, hey, can I go get a simple fact out of something? And which is a thing that I certainly often go to Google for. And but they're putting it out there in terms of correctness, diversity, and what it looks like. So I thought this was an important article. What do you think, Paul? I think you're.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I thought it's yet improvement. I think from AI leader standpoint, that they should continue to expect these kind of incremental improvements here. I didn't see it materially changing budgets, so I had it as optional.
Yeah, it is optional. Okay, we got one important, one optional. We're going to be very democratic today. We have the presidential election coming up on Tuesday. What do you think, Adam?
Optional.
Optional. Lucinda.
I mean, it's interesting to state, like, one of the things they say is that a lot of the benchmarks out there, all the models are getting 80-90%, and they need like a harder test. And that, this one, GPT-4o, is only getting a 40% on. So yeah, that's great. They'll continue to have new benchmarks, but that's expected.
All right, Lucinda, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was important because I do feel like it's interesting to see how these benchmarks are evolving to make it harder, as you said. But also, I think there are a couple of curves, like graphs down in there, if you want to like scroll down a little bit on Kaj, where it really shows how actually O1 preview and O4. I feel like with O4 they are kind of incorporating the things that they're learning or building from O1 preview. So like more and more, they're going to be more like each other. I think scroll down a little bit more on Kaj, but it's if you don't find it right away, that's fine. But yeah, a little bit more. Oh, actually, that's too bad. It doesn't really show up very well. But I think one of the interesting things was just how close O1 preview and 4o are to each other. So I just thought from that point of view, it would be good for the AI leader just to know, how these two models are evolving on this particular benchmark.
All righty. So Michael Novak notes this notion of fact seeking a stochastic model. Yes, perhaps he wants it for optional. So we have 2-2 plus 1 from the audience. What do you think here, Amanda?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning more towards optional, but just to throw a wrench in, I feel like combating hallucinations, things like that are more for maybe developers to be concerned with. So maybe it's a high level point for a leader. But I think looking at actually what the article is digging into would be more something I would feel the leader would pass off to their development team, more than them literally digging into something like this, even though there's not a ton of information anyway. But for that, I'm more on the optional side for the actual leader.
Akash, I'm feeling like Liz Cheney. My party's abandoning me. Where are you on this?
Optional on this one, John.
Oh, no. Okay. Optional it is. All right. I'm outvoted. Optional. Next.
Okay, the next one comes from VentureBeat, and it talks about Microsoft's new agentic AI tool called OmniParser.
All right. We have this OmniParser. Finally, the word parser comes back. We've got, anyway, the on this one we have Adam. What do you think of the OmniParser here?
You didn't. It was Paul, but I'm.
Oh, sorry, Paul. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, optional. It's speeds and feeds improvement. I didn't see anything that blew me away here at all.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Amanda. I didn't realize you're supposed to do the last one. My mistake. I had us doing this. Yeah, as Paul and I had this one. Yeah, I had it as optional as well. I thought it was kind of cool. You have this. I mean, Alan Kay, the inventor of object-oriented programming, would just have I think would have a heart attack because, a lot of these problems that we're now doing because HTML is just such a crappy programming language where they had HTML before that was bilateral, better defined, the whole routine. So in a certain sense, we're just mowing the kudzu of the implementation, but it's kind of cool that they have a parser and then 3 experts to take the subcomponents to try to understand, what any given screen is. But anyway, I was going to go optional. Anybody have an opinion strongly one way or the other?
Well, I was going to say, actually, I was kind of on the borderline of important, only because we've had a few clients that we've talked to where, like, a lot of the document is screenshots. And actually, more and more, I'm just taking notes. I'm taking screenshots of things. And so if you're taking screenshots, putting it to like a Word document, and, you know, even if it's like for training people how to move forward through, you know, whatever your complex system is. So I mean, I was kind of like, you know, if you have a lot of your unstructured data that has a bunch of screenshots in it, this could be very helpful, because right now it's opaque. Like if you put it to an LLM, it can't read it, right? And so this, to me, would be really helpful for anybody who's dealing with a lot of documents that have screenshots in them.
All right, so almost important there. What do you think, Amanda? Where are you on this one?
I think I'm more towards optional as well. Yeah, I'm an optional.
All righty, optional it is. Next.
I'll just note that this might be an absolute sleeper, and we all end up realizing like what's happening in terms of the agentic systems having a dependency and really relying on OmniParser at their core. This doesn't seem like much, but as they start to implement this, what it makes possible for things like computer use from Claude Sonnet, right, where it's looking at your screen and it's understanding what's happening. This might end up being a pivotal part of that equation.
Well, let's explore that for a second. I mean, so to your point, Adam, seriously, I mean, maybe this is the duct tape of, you know,
exactly
what, you know, of the
but John, I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, why can't it just get the HTML? And then it knows exactly where everything is. Like, I don't know. I think we're going to kind of move past trying to take screenshots of desktops and understanding them at a certain point here. So I don't know. It's cool that I mean, if the vision models were better, they wouldn't need it, right? So I don't know. That's probably why I left it optional for now. But I certainly see how it could be very, very useful.
All right. So yeah, the thing that strikes me is usually in broad adoption, the bad kudzu solution often wins out over the smarter, you know. I mean, look, Microsoft, the Microsoft operating system has over 150 million lines of code, more like 250. It's got 3 orders of magnitude more code than the core code that runs the entire internet. I mean, you know, you think about it that way, it's kind of nuts.
I mean, I guess one just other thought would be that I know that for like ingesting PDFs, like we've had some clients who've been like, hey, I've got all these like super long PDF documents that were reports that were highly formatted. And again, large language models can't really deal with that because it's got images, it's got pictures, it's got graphs, it's got fancy, you know, all sorts of, you know, visualizations, etc. I mean, if this was able to help cut through that, that would be huge, because that's a big barrier on the PDFs.
Lucinda, that's about a third of what this is trying to accomplish. That's very important, but it's more that it can fill in forms, right? It can understand what's a field and what's a title and what's a button, and it can click the button. It can do captchas, right?
Yeah, and that's another huge.
That's what we're talking about here. Like it can look at the screen and figure out which ones have the bicycles, and then the click I the agree and the button, because it can understand what all those elements on the screen are. Absolutely, OCR, yeah, no problem. Unstructured data, that whole thing for PDFs and images, it'll absolutely be a huge impact there as well, though.
All right,
all right. So we've gone out of the optional.
Yeah, I've talked myself into important.
Essential. We're gonna do essential. I'm good for essential. All right, let's do essential. Let's live crazy, live dangerously here. All right, essential it is. All right.
The next one comes from Hugging Face, and it talks about their small LM2 model.
All right, Adam, small model.
We're almost at time, and I'll try and keep it short. Yeah, new small model is small. It's another small model. It's done better than the previous small models. Like same story, rinse and repeat. I've considered this pretty optional.
All right, optional. Any objections? We're slamming toward the end here. All right, optional. Next.
Okay, the next one comes from C3 AI, and they have been awarded a patent for AI agent.
Yes, can I just say I hate process and agent patents, because I think a Turing machine is prior art for all this stuff. But anyway, what do you think, Lucinda?
Yeah, I got the same question. So I do think, like, I've been listening to these NPR ads that have been for over a year saying that C3 AI has hallucination free. And I'm always thinking, yeah, how can that be? However, when I look at what they've done, I mean, and you won't be able to bring this up, but I went and looked at the patent, but there's like this one big old diagram that shows just that they have how they integrate the ingestion, the metadata, the agents and tool choosing, the math, the visualization, the unstructured data, fine-tuned model for different tasks, whether it's Q&A, chat summarization, re-ranking, latency optimization. They have really put together a very comprehensive architecture to minimize hallucination. So they've attacked it by, basically using all the tools we've been talking about over the past, year and a half. And that the hallucination is now coming to be like security. Like, how much hallucination can you tolerate? Can you tolerate 1%, 0.01%, 0.00001%? And these types of architectures make you willing to do that. And with regards to prior art, if I think about, like Alden, he's actually published some of his architecture in the past. He's got most of these components here. So the question is, how defensible is this patent? And, they're going to be, 17,000 ways to skin this cat. So I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was a great look into how to do a really good architecture for minimizing hallucinations. And yeah, I mean, I guess it would make me want to look at their what they're doing anyway, in terms of what their product is.
When being early in an early confused market can have advantages here. And the commentary aside, the legal system hasn't changed. When I was at Open Market and e-commerce, we were so early, and we submitted a patent for shopping basket and got it. And we decided not to monetize it. Later on, the company was sold, and later on, a patent troll bought it, and they have generated over $1 billion of license fees from that. So, I don't know, I haven't looked at this, but it is a non-trivial thing if, in fact, they got a license. And the thing about shopping basket, I think it was so broad, and we were so early. So if this is a really broad thing, which feels like it, we're going to be paying license things.
All right, let's give it an important for that option reason. All right, running out of time here. We have the last one, how Llama helped CodeGPT.
So CodeGPT is one of the most used coding assistants, and it is built on top of Llama. So this is a brief look into how CodeGPT was developed and what has been the usage till now.
All right, Amanda, what do you think here?
Yeah, so I'm optional on this. It has a markety feel, which, that is a turnoff for me whenever I'm looking for the the AI leader. And so one thing I would say as well is, just because it's Meta doesn't mean everybody's just going to jump on board. No offense, everyone at Meta. For me, I use Julius AI. I haven't even touched this at all. And I'm somebody who's kind of gotten out of the development side because I'm so busy doing other things. So I definitely use code assistants. So I have other ones I use. So just for me, I totally optional.
All right, we'll head for optional. Any objections to that? All right, optional it is. And Ankash, the patent one is important, not optional, the one before this one. So, all right, as Ankash puts the tote board together, yesterday I said it was Friday. Today it's actually Friday. Sorry about that. And here we have the tote board. We got a couple essentials here with GPT search and the agentic tool parser, and then a couple importance and 3 optional. So there we have it. We've got a fantastic learning lab coming up on Monday. Paul, you want to go over that again? I know we talked a little about it yesterday.
Yeah, learning lab. We have Humphrey, CEO of a company called Clipper, and they're going to review some Gen AI use case on a device that goes into police. We also have a new feature we're going to start testing from Adam. I think we're going to figure out, Adam, do we have a name for it yet?
We're going to try Adam's AI Adventures.
Adam's
right?
AI Adventures. But Adam
I asked GPT for some alliterative titles, and that's one of the ones that came up with.
All right.
He was such a hit, but he's going to go through and show demos, particularly around using the new ChatGPT features here. And lastly, internally, we're shipping the V1 version of our buyer's guide. And if Ashish or others want to give us some quick feedback on it, Lucinda, let me know. I'm happy to give it to you. Big red marker, don't spend more than a half hour, but we're trying to figure out if we're going in the right direction. But the team's made a lot of progress.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.